you sent this around to the team, David. We expect China in the second quarter real GDP growth to slow sharply to 0.8%. Is that quarter over quarter from the previous year annual? Go ahead and decipher what's on the slide and tell us what kind of shape China's in right now.
So basically you measure annualized, but it's reported quarterly. And just so you understand, China under 5% GDP is almost like being in a recession. And their current is at 4.9. That's recessionary based on their population and the growth they've experienced for the last 30 years.
We would love 4.9% GDP.
Oh, absolutely we would.
But tell me again, why is it bad news for China?
Because China's government owns every one of these companies, either a majority or a minority. They have an ownership. There's no free companies over there. China gets an ownership of any one of their companies, right? So these numbers are padded. So the way I was taught when I took economics is you take China's GDP and you divide by 0.5 or 0.67. So either count it as half of what it is or knock off 2/3 to get a real number.
I see. Okay.
So if you took that off, then their GDP would be around 2.7% or something, right? 2.4, 2.7, something more reasonable. But now we're seeing their reported number potentially being under 1%. That's dismal. We haven't seen that in a long time since the Great Recession. And China is leveraged to the hilt in real estate we've talked about for the last couple of years. And so now they need to shift. And the only way, and this is where Scott Bessent, has the upper hand, is that the way they can drive their economic growth is through consumption. I mean, they have 1 billion people that can consume products. So it behooves them to want to import products they do not currently make, which is not many, but they still can. It allow products to be sold. And then, of course, they can, get revenue off of that, taxation, et cetera. So they are going to try to become a consumption-based economy while the U.S. starts to become somewhat more of a manufacturing economy, but it's going to be a strategic manufacturing economy, right? What goods and services make sense for us to produce here? And again, you get into more of a national security debate. Do we want to produce chips here? That would make sense. Do we want to produce things that have to do with AI, quantum computing, cybersecurity? Those things make sense. So you want to make us still the tech powerhouse of the globe. And so that's why I think you're going to see some de-escalation is the word that Bessent used, private behind the doors. And there's some people tweeting out. And one of my friends who is kind of in the know sent me some information last night. And again, we're not saying we know anything, but I do believe you're going to see an acceleration to getting deals done here in the next 10 days, 3 weeks, something like that. And we'll see some probably lofty announcements. I think that's going to be paired with suggested tax cuts that they're going to then pivot over to Congress and say, hey, put this in place. So if we could increase revenue, and I'm not giving an exact number, but Chip, imagine if we could increase revenue, call it $250 billion a year in governmental revenue via the tariff increase, right? And we end up in that 6 to 8% where I think we end up. And then we take that $250 billion and then give it to the bottom 50% of workers. In other words, those that are still paying taxes. Right now, about 49% of Americans don't pay a dime in income tax. What if we push that up to 60%? Again, I'm a free market guy, not necessarily liking that, but that's what they're going to do. That's going to appease the working class who put Trump in office. That's what they're going to try to do. And I believe that basically individuals making $75,000 to $80,000 will have a very, very low tax bill if they get this done. And I believe on top of that, to placate some people that are moderate left, they're going to tax the rich. They are going to increase taxes they're going to create a new tax bracket, probably around $1 million, because that's a nice round number. And that will probably be in the neighborhood of 42% tax margin break. So that hurts someone like me financially, but it does help a lot of people. And so there's going to be a little bit of a trade-off here. But again, we'll wait and see what these announcements come out. But I think the markets are at least realizing, okay, not the end of the world, right? But it doesn't mean that the economy is great. We still, and we'll talk to that the rest of the show, there are still dangers. There are still things to be careful of. This is not hey, go start buying leveraged ETFs left and right, which we're seeing an exorbitant amount of people doing and getting harmed in a very serious way.